peak of geek where we've hit the top but with no plans to stop. You know what? It's getting super cold here in Canada, and these days, I just want to be wrapped up in a fuzzy sweater and a warm blanket with my partner and my cats, and I want to play video games that pair perfectly with that combination. If you're new to cozy games, maybe it's time you take a break from the latest stressful battle royale first-person shooter combo and instead switch gears to something more akin to letting your stress disappear in a nice, hot bath. Instead of yelling at some 11-year-old over the internet who's, let's face it, probably better than you. These games are usually very low impact, very low stakes, but still simultaneously addictive and comforting to lose yourself in. Sometimes these are co-op games to enjoy with that significant other, or sometimes it's something you experience solo to make sure you get that dedicated me time. The cozy game genre has skyrocketed, and there have been many games over the years that have been designed specifically to be cozy. But today, we're going to talk about a few games that I personally find cozy and act as the perfect video game wind down after a long and tiring day. I find nostalgia plays a major part in why many games feel cozy for us to play. And more often than not, I find newer cozy game releases usually draw inspiration from nostalgic gameplay styles, nostalgic artwork, or both. The first example that probably comes to all our minds is Stardew Valley, and personally, I've sunk an embarrassing amount of hours into maintaining my farm, my relationships, and my dungeon crawling combat skills. If you've been away from the interactive medium for the last 7 years, Stardew Valley is a farming sim that wears its Harvest Moon inspiration on its sleeve, but it ends up being way better than any of them. Yeah, maybe even Harvest Moon 64. And the fact that Eric Barone, aka Concerned Ape, completely developed the core game all by himself still blows my mind. Stardew Valley is also arguably what coined the term cozy game, at least that's how it goes in my headcanon. And it's easy to see why. Everything about this game, from the adorable pixel art to the calming, catchy music and the overall feel, is honestly a masterclass. There's a reason why many call this indie gem one of the greatest of all time. And hey, Mr. Barone, please take all the time you need with Haunted Chocolatier. I'm sure it'll be worth the wait. Another game that always comes to mind and is worth calling attention to when discussing cozy games is Unpacking. A game which honestly explains it all in the title. This puzzle game, and I use that term loosely, involves you opening boxes and putting things where you want them in various rooms. And while that may sound boring in explanation, in demonstration it's soothing and fun. There's also something about decorating rooms as the playable character ages behind the scenes that's surprisingly emotional and heartwarming. These days though, I tend to extend the core definition of what many think of when it comes to interactive experiences designed to make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. So let's talk about a few non-traditional cozy games that I think still count. A series that always gives me those warm and fuzzy feelings, and this is 100% based on nostalgia, is Pokemon. Designed for children and loved by players of all ages, there's something so relaxing about starting out on your Pokemon journey, even if you're doing so for the 9th time. Every time I start a new file, I love seeing the new Pokemon professor, naming my character, picking my starter, and meeting my rival. Though I admit I do miss the days when they were complete jerks. While leveling up your little monsters, I always appreciate the lack of any real challenge in these games, since you can heal your party at Pokemon centers for free and save just about anywhere. Because sometimes you want an RPG-light experience with minimal grinding and breezy battles. There's also something dependable and comforting about how certain core things about the Pokemon series never change. No matter what life throws at you as you make your way through it, Pokemon will always be there. Not every single Pokemon will, much to the anger of some diehard fans out there, but at least we know Pikachu will always be there. And you know what? Slowly filling up your Pokedex goes perfectly with a hot tea and a purring lap cat on a chilly fall evening. I'll admit that mentioning Pokemon here is probably attributed to memories of playing the original games on Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance, but honestly, whether it's the pixelated classics or the latest, mostly stable, recent release, any entry in this long-running Monster Collectathon series is ideal for delivering a chill experience. Another nostalgic option for peak coz, at least for me personally, is my favorite game of all time, Earthbound for the Super Nintendo. one is nothing but awesome vibes, and those of you who've played it know exactly what I'm talking about. Beautiful pixel art, an outstanding soundtrack, and a simple but effective story about a psychic boy and his friends who saved the world from aliens. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about this one in more detail another time. Here's one I only recently added to my cozy game go-tos. Dragon Quest Builders. Think Minecraft meets ActRaiser with classic Dragon Quest characters and monsters. This one feels a bit cozier if you sunk countless hours into the Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior series over the years, since the orchestrated soundtrack renditions and the references to those early games are super fun to hear and see. Builders takes the Minecraft aesthetic and main gameplay loop, but it's way more story and quest driven than the classic brick-based original. You play an unnamed hero who has the mysterious ability to build. It turns out humans have lost this treasured ability since the world was overrun by the Dragon Lord and his horde of monsters. So, you're tasked with slowly building everything back up from scratch, and it all starts with resource gathering. Before long, you're constructing a town and fortifying its defenses while bringing the last remaining humans together again so you can all fight back the monsters. While there's no traditional character level up system, you can level up your town or base, which will unlock new items and recipes, leading to better weapons and armor. It transforms the simple hack and slash combat into something a bit more on the strategic side. If you haven't tried Builders or its sequel yet, absolutely check them out. Of course, it almost goes without saying that OG Minecraft is another fantastic cozy choice, especially if you're also looking to scratch that creative itch. Sometimes a desire for a cozy game means you want the simplest experience ever. You know, you've had one of those days and you want to just come home, turn your brain off, and interact with something, but with minimal effort. Well, there's a reason why my partner calls Diablo 4 the one-button game. It's not quite that simple, but it can be a mindless experience, and sometimes that's exactly what you're looking for. Running around, destroying monsters, appreciating the, tasteful art, all the while petting your cat. Or, if you want even less interaction, you can always check out the cult indie hit Vampire Survivors. This Castlevania-inspired roguelike is as simple as they come. You roam around endlessly repeating pixelated worlds, dodging enemies, while letting the game attack for you. Level ups and treasures come fast and furious in this totally casual but also completely addicting experience. You'll also unlock new stages, weapons, and most importantly, characters, who all have different attacks and passive bonuses. It's no wonder this one took the world by storm last year, and we're still seeing additional content released for this easygoing but surprisingly deep game. And believe it or not, an animated Vampire Survivors TV series is currently in development. Alright, here's one for the Disney fans out there. Okay, I know this game was supposed to go free to play and now it isn't, and that's a major bummer, but that doesn't mean that you should skip out on Disney Dreamlight Valley. This life sim feels like the developers smashed together the gameplay of Animal Crossing with the 100 years of characters and stories from the Walt Disney Company. But is it a winning combination? Well, I certainly seem to think so. In this one, your character finds your way to the titular Dreamlight Valley by falling asleep and entering a dream world. You meet Merlin from The Sword in the Stone, and you soon learn the valley's ruler has disappeared, and mysterious plants called night thorns have started growing and causing the villagers to lose their memories or disappear outright. So, you're tasked to become the leader of the valley and work alongside Merlin to make everyone remember their friends and bring them back home. As you proceed through the story and fulfill little quests, you'll also unlock new areas, new worlds, and best of all, new Disney friends, with additional updates bringing in more all the time. Maybe it's just me, but there's a legit calming effect to walking around and making friends with the animated heroes from your childhood, while saving up in-game money to buy the perfect outfit or piece of furniture. Ooh, I totally need this. While I've only played this one in early access, it's felt like a full release since day one, despite wrestling with a few early day bugs. And I might be in the minority on this one, but I'm kind of glad Dreamlight Valley isn't going free to play. Hopefully this means devs will pull back on some of the in-game monetization and increase the amount of free worlds and characters. Either way, it'll be exiting early access before the end of the year and launching alongside its first paid DLC, A Rift in Time, which is actually buyable with its in-game currency as long as you've been diligently saving up those moonstones. Anyway, this one can and will easily get its hooks into you, especially if you were a die-hard Disney kid. Sometimes embracing coziness means curling up with a good book, whether it's physical or oral. I mean for your ears, like an audiobook. But sometimes you also want a bit of interactivity to go along with it, and that's when I turn to visual novels. There are so many options out there to choose from, and it can be totally overwhelming if you're interested in just dipping your toes in. Personally, I will always recommend the Ace Attorney series to newcomers. Being a quirky defense attorney living in Japan is actually super fun. Exploring crime scenes, talking to the unusual over-the-top characters, collecting evidence, and then presenting said evidence in court with a satisfying objection is awesome, especially with this series' oddball brand of humor. You can tell the English localizers really enjoyed translating these games. Fortunately, there are a few jumping on points here, starting with the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney trilogy, if you want to see where it all began. Then there's the great Ace Attorney Chronicles, which features all new characters and is set at the end of the 19th century. And there's also the upcoming compilation of the Apollo Justice series. And all of these options are available on modern consoles and PC. More recent visual novels like Coffee Talk 1 and 2 are also great choices if you're looking for an enjoyable story with a bit less gameplay. Here, you're living your life as a barista based in Seattle, Washington. You spend your days chatting up your customers while serving up their orders, complete with a bit of latte foam art, and helping them solve their problems. A fair warning that this one is a bit on the shorter side, but like all great cups of coffee, the experience may be short, but it's also sweet and soothing. And the fact that this world is made up of fantasy characters like elves and orcs, it just makes the whole experience that much better. The last game I want to talk about was easily one of my favorites from last year. This will not sound surprising at all, but the reason it became one of my top picks is because the brilliant developers decided to implement a dedicated meow button. That's right, we're talking Stray. What could possibly make spending quality time with your favorite purr machine even better? Controlling one at the same time? Stray is a one-of-a-kind adventure game set in a dystopian world populated by robots, drones, and strange slime monsters. Luckily, you're equipped with a backpack that houses your little drone buddy, who can also translate the robot's language. While exploring this strange new world, you'll help the robots locate missing objects, solve simple puzzles, and gain more destructive abilities later on. But you can also take time to just be a cat. Meowing, sleeping, and nuzzling up to other inhabitants of this world shouldn't be this endearing every single time, but I assure you, it is. I won't go into any more detail because you should totally try out Stray on your own. In fact, I would recommend any game from this list. Just pick one that goes with your current vibe and snuggle in. But if you do end up trying anything out, or if I missed out one of your go-tos, let me know all about it down in the comments below. And until next time, that sound is not a human child in pain or distress. That is actually my cat, and she wants attention. Yes, I'm being serious. Later days.